I'd rather have the audience asking the questions. We have lots of hands up.
Hello, good morning. My name is Rene from Level 360 in Bangalore. A lot has been said about virtual companies. That means you can source products or services from anywhere in the world. The same can be extended to the market side, where you can address the market through the internet. Yesterday I've heard an interesting notion that you can arbitrage regulation and actually the location where you are located as a company as well, which might be in a low tax territory. So in my bottom line, this looks like the impact of states is decreasing and is getting weakened. Do you have a bit of view about how it will implicate the iron grip of states that is so far holding companies in the future? Please.
Well, I think this is an interesting point, but it's been made before. I think Francis Cairncross in a book, The Death of Distance, makes the same argument that the globalization of this nature forces in a sense, puts pressure on countries to function within a broad range of social and economic parameters. In the sense that if some countries are over-regulated than others, then companies can choose to operate from the more moderate regulation countries. Or if some countries have higher tax rates than others, then you can operate from the. So I think what this does is that for countries that participate in this global economic environment, it does create a sort of a boundary condition on the kind of policies that it has, whether it's in terms of regulation on business, whether it's in terms of taxes, whether it's in terms of ease of doing business, whether it's in terms of investment in human capital and so forth. Of course, this does not apply to resource-rich countries. I mean, the whole argument is that if countries are making a lot of money selling oil or copper, then they don't care about these things. But if they are participants in the global economy and are generally trading products and services that they manufacture or service, then definitely this puts a boundary condition on the range of regulation and taxation that they can follow.
Just to add to what Nandan, looking out to identify best practices and adopt them. Countries have also become much smarter, in my opinion. Each country that was compelled to respond to the demands of its citizens, and each country which was compelled to put up better economic performance, has learned that free markets can deliver goods rather very quickly. They have also learned that the mantra behind a free and successful market is good governance principles. Therefore, companies that have succeeded enormously are the countries which have learned from established practices in other developed country environments. Therefore, for example, for a SEBI, which is the regulator in India, it is learning from SEC and adding something more so that the environment is more attractive for the investors and as well as customers. Therefore, in that sense, yes, there is a lot of cross-learnings happening, and in one sense, convergence is taking place. Next 10 or 20 years from now, particularly in a background of hopefully WTO succeeding, there will be very few differences. Because wherever the differences exist that are not necessarily good for a country, then there will be pressure within for changes to take place.
Hello, I'm Sunil Mirani from Ugam Solutions. We are a provider of research and analytics outsource services.
The historical notion that services jobs were less prone to globalization is essentially being, affected by this services globalization. And also the other implicit notion that sophisticated jobs or jobs that require a great amount of education and skill are less susceptible to be, to feel the force of global. Both these things have been proved to be, in jeopardy. So I think this certainly has challenges, and I think that I think that countries everywhere will try to focus on addressing the inequity that this creates, because it does affect incomes and so forth. And in fact, just the Federal Reserve governor in the U.S., Bernanke, has been talking about income inequality in the U.S. And we have the same challenge in India, where we are having all these debates on land acquisition and so forth. So I think we have to find an adequate balance between these forces of globalization and the ability of countries to create more equitable income opportunity for its citizens. Because if you don't get that right, then I think very clearly people are going to say that this is not working for us, and therefore that has political consequences. So I think definitely this is an ongoing issue, and we always have to be cognizant of it, both in the markets where outsourcing is happening, and places like India, because in India you may not have an objection to outsourcing, but certainly the people in the farms have an objection to the incomes that outsourcing is creating. So there's a different kind of tension that exists here. But both of them relate to the perceived inequity of income from globalization, and I think that's something which absolutely will have to be addressed, and we should be cognizant of it. And I think as an industry we should worry about it, because if we don't have adequate responses to that, then then the permission that we have to operate will be reduced. The other point I think which is not adequately understood in this is that it's also creating markets. I mean, when we talk about what's happening today, the outsourcing industry in India may be 1.5 million people today doing some kind of outsourcing, and the general estimate that most people have is that this creates 1:5 kind of jobs, which means that broadly it's maybe creating 7-8 million jobs. But more importantly, it's driving the consumer boom. The consumer boom is being driven by outsourcing. If you look at whether it's a Gurgaon or a Bangalore, it's really driven by IT BPO kind of people, because they have young people, high disposable incomes, they spend on things. So, and this consumer boom is driving the demand for global products and services. And I gave the example of mobile phones, where India has gone from nowhere to 6 million mobile phones a month, or the fact that when you look at the sales of large aircraft vendors, whether it's a Boeing or an Airbus, 10% of the sales today are in India, which is why you're having such a big air show in Bangalore this weekend. So this outsourcing and globalization and creating of consumers is now creating demand for global products and services. And that in turn means that these countries will start buying a lot more from other economies, and therefore create jobs. So the fact that this is also creating a two-way job creation also needs to be recognized.
Discussed and debated issue. In my opinion, the whole debate got positioned in a wrong direction. I think it is not to be viewed as one country versus another. I think so long as it's viewed as that, it's a huge problem. It is a misplacement of issues. It is to be viewed as an issue between different stakeholders. Like, for example, in the United States, if people are wanting to focus on preserving jobs, even at the cost of efficiencies, then who is paying the price? It is the US investor is paying the price. And it is the US customer who is paying the price, because for the customer, the prices of their goods and services would be higher. And for the investor, the return on equity is going to be lower. And that's as straightforward as that. Now, so long as it is recognized to be the case, then our answers would be much simpler. In the last 15 or 16 years of all this change that we have seen in India, we have also seen the world move from 36% trade as a percentage of global GDP to 54%, which means that developed countries and their companies have become more globalized. They have expanded their operations, and those who have done successfully, such as GE, with which Pramod has been associated for a long time, it has been successful because it has been able to do that, and therefore it has enhanced their job creation capability and their sustenance. So it is more about creating value rather than distribution of existing value. So long as the movement is towards distribution issues, I think the world will pay a price. You know, that's what we have seen in even developing countries like India. And once the game has changed towards creating value, then it is helping the downtrodden much better. And same thing would happen even with the developed countries. You know, if they view it in the right perspective, then it is good for everyone, and there will be more successful companies out of developed countries.